What if the price of love was eternity in chains? What if the one kiss you waited for your whole life was the very thing that damned you forever? In a world where shadows bargain with blood and immortality is never a gift, only a curse, every choice slices deeper than death itself. Tonight, we step into the dark heart of Ivy Marie's Immortal Consequences, where the line between desire and destruction vanishes in a single breath. Are you ready to face what lingers after forever? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Podcast Zone. I'm Emma.
And I'm John.
And wow, I have spent the last week just completely immersed, really digging into the emotional roadmap Ivy Marie laid out in Blackwood Academy, Soul Journeys, and Eternal Trials. It's fascinating because it operates on these two levels, doesn't it? You've got the high-stakes, supernatural academy story on the surface.
Like the Gothic setting, the trials, the danger.
Exactly. But then underneath, it's this incredibly rigorous analysis of human vulnerability, trust, and, well, the really painful path to self-acceptance.
And I'm Emma. John, you absolutely nailed it. That dual focus is where the structural genius of this novel really lies, I think. For you, our listener, our mission tonight is basically to dissect that architecture. We want to go beyond just, plot summary. We're aiming to extract the really profound lessons hidden within the chapter structure itself, looking closely at how vulnerability shifts, how it evolves from being seen as maybe a passive weakness into the absolute central skill you need for, well, eternal survival in this world.
Yeah, and what makes this whole narrative just so compelling is that setting. The state of limbo. It's not like these are brand new souls, right?
No, not at all.
They're souls grappling with these memories, sometimes frustratingly unreliable memories of a life that was cut short, and then bam, they're thrust into these high-stakes trials, often with no real guide.
Yeah, totally unprepared.
So their self-discovery, it isn't some leisurely, existential coffee shop chat. It's urgent. It's a survival mechanism that literally determines their eternal fate.
Exactly, and that's what we're focusing on, that core high-stakes conflict. This constant tension between mourning a past they can barely grasp and fighting for an eternal future they didn't ask for. Every external challenge Marie throws at them, whether it's like a physical gauntlet or this looming threat from the demon order,
Right.
it forces an internal reckoning. So by tracking their evolution through the acts, chapter by chapter, we can really map how deep friendship, which becomes the central bond in the book, is forged in that fire, not in comfort.
Absolutely. It's forged in the heat of shared trauma and necessity. Act 1, Awakening and the Forging of the Circle, chapters 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's unpack that initial shockwave of Act 1. Chapter 1, Awakening in the Shadows, it delivers that opening jolt you mentioned. Marie doesn't ease you into Blackwood Academy at all.
No gentle introduction here.
Not a bit. She throws you straight into this hazy, disorienting arrival. The environment itself, it almost hums with unspoken regret, and the echoes of past trauma. It's palpable.
And that raw sting, that feeling of leaving the living world behind, that's the lead soul's fundamental hurdle right from the start. It's made so much worse by those foggy, unreliable memories you talked about.
Yeah.
What's really critical here, I think, is how Marie establishes isolation as the default state. The soul is utterly alone, uncertain about how they died, unsure of their purpose here. The Academy, it's described as elegant, but it's fundamentally uncaring, isn't it?
Totally uncaring. Elegant but cold. And because of that intense isolation, the core idea kicking off this chapter is how those first really tentative steps into the unknown immediately forge these unexpected bonds.
Right. Necessity drives it.
Exactly. It's not about finding friends you choose because you have similar interests. It's about finding allies you desperately need for sheer survival. You can almost feel that chill of isolation starting to melt away the second one soul offers, like a tentative handshake to another newcomer.
Yeah.
It's a survival alliance, born purely out of mutual disorientation and, frankly, need.
And if we connect this to, the current context, especially thinking about the U.S. right now, it really mirrors the psychological state of a lot of young people navigating the post-pandemic landscape.
That's a really interesting parallel. How so?
Well, they've experienced this massive societal rupture, haven't they? Loss of known structure, disruption of traditional milestones like graduation or starting college, sudden isolation. So that feeling of starting over, whether it's, say, stepping onto a U.S. college campus after remote learning or maybe moving to a major city like New York or L.A. after lockdowns reset everything.
Right, everything feels different.
Exactly. It feels simultaneously terrifying and weirdly freeing because maybe all the prior social expectations have been kind of wiped away. That shared, disoriented, high-stakes moment becomes this potent catalyst for immediate, surprisingly deep alliances. Just like Marie portrays in Chapter 1, it's that shared what-now feeling.
That makes perfect sense. That shared vulnerability creates instant common ground. Like, subscribe, and share for more update. Okay, so moving into Chapter 2, Whispers and Defiance. Marie starts to really define the world of Blackwood Academy more clearly. We get the surface view, that eerie elegance of the architecture you mentioned.
The Gothic atmosphere.
But the real substance comes through in the orientation process, which is just laced with confusing, often contradictory rules. It feels like these rules are clearly designed to test the souls, not really to guide them.
Oh, absolutely. They seem arbitrary, designed to provoke. And the emotional turning point here, I think, is that flicker of defiance that ignites almost instantly in the characters.
Yeah, you see it right away.
That profound, raw grief they're all carrying, the fact that their lives were cut short, often tragically, it clashes immediately with these external, seemingly pointless rules of the afterlife. The feeling is, why should we obey these rules when our eternity feels like it's already been stolen?
That's such a powerful conflict. And that moment, that clash, is where the real character development starts taking off, isn't it?
Definitely.
The core insight Murray gives us here is that those hidden scars from past lives, the unhealed traumas, they surface immediately under this kind of external pressure. So vulnerability isn't just a passive state they're in.
No, it's active.
It becomes this active, almost defiant gateway to trust. They start bonding not over shared hobbies or backgrounds, but over shared painful histories and this mutual rebellion against the Academy's oppressive structure.
And this vulnerability factor, it ties right into contemporary wellness culture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Particularly among younger U.S. demographics. There's this major trend, often happening on online platforms, where sharing your deepest ghost stories, your personal history, your flaws, your traumas, is almost seen as the required first step toward building genuinely strong, authentic friendships.
Right, the idea of radical honesty.
Exactly. It's this idea that superficiality is just a waste of time, and to feel truly safe with people, you have to be completely seen, warts and all. It's vulnerability as a strength-building exercise.
It's fascinating how quickly Marie then pivots to that community creation in Chapter 3, Forging the Circle. It really demonstrates that immediate, non-negotiable need for group safety these souls feel.
Yeah, she doesn't waste time. She's assembling this unlikely crew. You get 6 souls thrown together, all from wildly different origins, different lives, maybe even different centuries. They're like these shattered puzzle pieces trying to fit together.
And the emotional high point of that chapter.
For me, it's those moments of collective breakthrough. Maybe it's shared laughter breaking the tension, or shared tears during some late-night confessional session in the dorms. Those moments instantly cement these strangers into fierce, protective allies.
The central idea driving Chapter 3 feels really clear. Friendship in this world isn't some leisure choice, like picking a brunch spot. It's forged in the white-hot fire of their shared limbo. It's a non-negotiable survival tool.
Absolutely. And this mirrors modern social trends pretty significantly, I think. Think about the explosive rise in specialized online support groups.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Or those US-based wellness apps and forums that cater to highly specific traumas, or identity groups like groups for people dealing with chronic illness or specific types of grief, or navigating LGBTQ+ identities. These digital circles have become essential, real-world safe spaces for people to heal fractures left by modern isolation or lack of local community.
So the setting changes maybe from a Gothic Academy dorm room to a private Discord server.
Exactly. But that desperate need for the protective circle, for that sense of belonging and safety, it remains exactly the same. It's about finding your people when you feel completely adrift.
Like, subscribe, and share for more update. Fic 2, Act 2, Trials, Tensions, and Healing. Chapters 4, 5, 7, 8.
Okay, so Act 2. This is really the pivot point, where the narrative shifts gear from, just introducing characters and setting the scene to high-stakes action and testing. Chapter 4, The First Echo, really amps up the pulse with the announcement of the decennial trials.
Right, and this is where the stakes need to be crystal clear for the reader and for the characters, too. These decennial trials, they aren't just like final exams.
No, farm it?
They are existential hurdles. Failure doesn't just mean a bad grade. It means potential descent into some harsher, truly awful, eternal consequence, or maybe just stasis, being permanently trapped in the Academy's limbo state, never moving on.
Yeah, the ambiguity is terrifying.
So any peaceful hopes they might have had for eternity, suddenly shadowed by this immense pressure.
And that knowledge immediately ramps up the tension, doesn't it? Not just externally, but internally within each soul. The emotional beat Marie introduces here is subtle, but really powerful. Just a stolen glance across the dining hall.
The romance element starts creeping in.
Exactly. It sparks this intense curiosity, but it's immediately laced with fear. Because in this environment, connection, especially romantic connection, is often the most dangerous liability you can have.
Right, it makes you vulnerable.
It's the ultimate point of vulnerability that could be exploited by rivals, or maybe even by the Academy itself, or the darker forces lurking around.
That dynamic really sets up the key idea for this part of the book. Self-discovery blooms in rivalry. These souls are being actively tested against each other now, and that process forces them to reveal layers they probably never knew they hid.
Yeah, like ambition, maybe unexpected cruelty, or even surprising moments of selflessness under pressure.
And this whole concept, it strongly reflects the current landscape of, say, Gen Z identity exploration, doesn't it? Their self-definition often happens very publicly, sometimes online, often in response to comparison or even competition. It results in this sort of public, fluid embrace of reinvention.
Right, where identity feels more like a choice or a performance even, not some rigid, fixed constraint. You can be multiple things, try on different personas.
Exactly. Then we get to Chapter 5, Threads of Trust, which dives much deeper into the power of sharing your history, your past. You see these late-night talks happening where souls start to unravel these deeply personal histories.
Often related to the circumstances of their death, maybe?
Yeah.
Or their greatest failure or regret from life.
Yeah, the heavy stuff. And the emotional turning point here is critical. A confession happens. Someone shares something deeply vulnerable, and it shatters a pretense or a facade they've been holding up.
And that forces a choice, right?
Right. Does the protagonist, or the person hearing the confession, maintain those thick, protective emotional walls they've made? Or do they risk it? Do they risk accepting the genuine warmth and compassion being offered by the group or by that one person?
That's a huge moment.
It is. The core idea is that acceptance starts small, maybe just a nod of recognition, a shared secret whispered in the dark, and then it ripples out, creating profound psychological change for everyone involved in that bond.
And this narrative thread, it feels perfectly aligned with today's more progressive, inclusive media waves, especially here in the U.S. You see so many stories celebrating diverse kinds of heartache, non-linear life paths.
Totally.
The message seems clear. Your past, however messy or tragic it was, isn't necessarily a barrier to friendship or love. In fact, it might be the very foundation upon which deep connection is built. It's about leveraging trauma, almost, as shared knowledge, shared experience.
Like, subscribe, and share for more update.
Okay, let's jump ahead a bit, as the outline suggests, to Chapter 7, Trial of Flames. This is the first major physical challenge we see, and it demands more than just skill or cleverness. It demands, like, soul-level honesty.
Yeah, Marie really turns up the heat here, literally. She unleashes actual flames that seem to dance with the participants' forgotten fears, forcing them to confront the source of their most profound emotional damage head-on. It's brutal.
It sounds incredibly intense, and while the protagonist, as we expect, probably succeeds or survives...
Like there's a success, but the triumph is notably bittersweet. The real emotional turning point, I think, is when the protagonist observes a friend stumble during the trial. It might not be a complete failure, but it's a brief moment of raw vulnerability that directly mirrors the protagonist's own buried existential doubts.
Seeing your own fears reflected in someone else.
Exactly. Doubts about their worthiness for salvation, maybe, or their ability to overcome their past. So the victory is achieved, but the price is seeing their own fragility reflected in someone they've started to care about. It complicates the win.
And the core lesson Marie seems to be giving us here is pretty essential. Growth hurts, often intensely.
Right.
But it is the necessary spark, that friction, that lights the path towards who you are meant to become eternally.
That necessary pain.
Right. And we see this mirrored directly in certain U.S. cultural phenomena right now. Think about those intense viral wellness challenges you see online, like extreme fitness regimes, 30-day cleanses, or even things like cold plunges.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
They demand immense inner fire, incredible discipline. The cultural obsession with them almost suggests that this kind of intentional short-term suffering is seen as the fastest path to profound physical and, maybe more importantly, psychological transformation. It's like turning that inner fire into literal external fuel for change.
Using challenge to forge resilience.
Precisely. But of course, transformation always requires repair afterwards. Which brings us to Chapter 8, Mending Fractures, which centers on healing. Marie wisely explores the profound importance of those quiet moments of reconciliation amidst all the chaos of the academy.
That makes sense. After the high stakes and potential conflicts of the trial, the group needs to process the internal damage done, the frayed nerves, the exposed weaknesses.
Exactly. And the emotional turning point here is often that genuine, heartfelt apology that manages to bridge a gap. It reignites a friendship flame that maybe someone thought was lost forever after the intensity or competitiveness of the trials.
So the key idea here is really powerful. Friendship's true test isn't just about avoiding conflict or, winning together. It's about rising together, united, from the ashes of misunderstanding and maybe even self-interest that surfaced during the pressure.
Absolutely. And this aligns perfectly with the rising popularity of restorative justice conversations that are gaining traction in U.S. schools and communities. There's a shift happening away from purely punitive disciplinary measures
Or it's what?
towards emphasizing empathy over holding grudges, recognizing that conflict resolution, forgiveness, and actual healing
Yeah.
are essential to building a strong community, whether that's in a high school cafeteria or, well, an eternal academy for lost souls.
Okay, I have to push back on that slightly, though. That link between earthly conflict resolution, like restorative justice, it's interesting, but Marie's characters are souls with eternal fates hanging in the balance, right? Doesn't that incredibly high-stakes context, where a single mistake, a single betrayal could literally damn you forever, make simple restorative justice feel maybe too easy? Are the betrayals truly forgivable in a world where time doesn't heal wounds, only conscious choice does?
That's a fantastic point, actually. You're right. The stakes elevate everything. I think the difference is the urgency of forgiveness in Blackwood, because they lack the luxury of infinite time to process and mediate.
They're on a clock, even in eternity.
Exactly. Restorative justice in Blackwood isn't about lengthy mediation sessions or drawn-out apologies. It has to be about immediate, decisive vulnerability and acceptance. The stakes are so astronomically high that holding on to a grudge isn't just emotionally draining, it's literally a strategic risk for the next trial, for survival.
So forgiveness becomes a tactical necessity.
Precisely. Marie seems to argue that the true power of restorative justice in this eternal setting is that it forces immediate accountability and reciprocal empathy. Because the alternative, carrying that toxic emotional weight forever, is strategically unacceptable. They must heal quickly to survive whatever comes next, which forces them to bypass the long, often messy human grieving and forgiveness process we're used to.
That adds a fascinating layer, forgiveness as a survival strategy. Like, subscribe, and share for more update. 3 Act 3, Forbidden Passion and Betrayal, Chapter 6, 9, 11, 13. Okay, Act 3. This is where Marie really starts weaving together those complex tensions. The lurking external threats and, maybe even more compellingly, the forbidden love angle. We need to loop back briefly to Chapter 6, Shadows Stir, which we skipped over earlier, because this is where Marie really amplifies the external danger.
Yes, exactly. The stakes shift here from primarily individual trials and internal group dynamics to a more tangible external existential threat. Marie introduces these whispers of intruders, maybe strange occurrences, and then the unmistakable presence of the demon order shadows. You get descriptions of them slinking through the Academy's mists.
Creepy.
Very.
Yeah.
And the initial emotional turning point is the immediate paranoia that starts to infect the group. It tests their newly cemented loyalties against this tangible, genuinely frightening enemy. Who can you trust when there might be actual demons watching?
And what's brilliant here, I think, is the way Marie uses that external threat to actually feed the internal drama. We see this dangerous pull emerge, an overwhelming romantic attraction developing towards a specific character.
Often the forbidden one, right?
Often. The one who seems to see your true, fractured self, maybe the only one who gets you, but that person might also be morally ambiguous or maybe even directly associated with the danger somehow.
Classic trope, but effective here.
It creates this complex trust dynamic that perfectly captures, in a way, the feeling of our current era. Maybe like 2025's cyber-vigilance culture. Think about it. Trust, especially online or in high-stakes professional settings or even dating apps, it feels like the ultimate, often incredibly risky currency.
You crave authenticity.
Right, you're drawn to it like a moth to a flame, but revealing your authentic self or trusting someone else's is also a massive liability.
Yeah, that tension is palpable.
Yeah.
And it sets up the deepening romance we see explored in Chapter 9, Veiled Desires. Marie moves past just subtle glances now. We get stolen touches, lingering looks that actively defy the Academy's strict, cold rules.
Pushing the boundary.
Definitely. The afterlife's ordinances, whatever they are, seem to be visibly bending under the weight of these unspoken intense yearnings. It feels like a statement that even eternal bureaucracy is ultimately no match for fundamental human or soul connection.
And there's this palpable tension often surrounding it, isn't there? Marked by maybe a near-miss confession, something left unsaid that just hangs heavy in the air. The internal conflict for the characters must be intense. That desire for vulnerability clashing fiercely with the primal fear of eternal rejection, or worse, some kind of eternal consequence for breaking the rules.
Absolutely. And the analysis here is crucial, I think. What does love and limbo teach us? Marie seemed to argue that hearts don't just fade or diminish after death. They evolve, maybe even intensify under pressure.
They become more essential.
More essential, not less. And this resonates profoundly with the current rom-com boom we're seeing, especially in U.S. film and TV. There's a real focus now on diverse and often marginalized narratives, taking center stage-like prominent queer romances or stories that deliberately defy traditional gender roles or relationship structures.
Celebrating love outside the lines.
Exactly. Celebrating love that purposefully defies traditional restrictive structures. In this context, the Academy's rules are just another outdated structure for love to potentially shatter. Love finds a way, even in the afterlife.
Like, subscribe, and share for more update.
But, okay, before that passion can fully bloom and maybe define them in a positive way, Marie forces this moment of profound, almost painful introspection with Chapter 10, The Second Veil. The trials are intensifying again, but this time the souls are presented with these deep, potent illusions.
Illusions of what?
Illusions that force them to confront alternate realities, ideal lives unlived, what could have been.
Oh, wow. That sounds devastating. Seeing those what-if versions of yourself, the successful career you dreamed of, the family you never had the chance to start, the life that wasn't cut short by tragedy, that has to be the monumental emotional turning point of this section.
It really is. It's the moment the soul has to, break open the doors to self-forgiveness regarding the life they lost.
Yeah.
They have to confront the ghost of what might have been.
And the key idea Marie is driving at.
It's profound, I think. Acceptance isn't about erasing the past or forgetting the life they lived. It's the conscious, often incredibly painful choice to embrace the full, complex mosaic of who you are now in this limbo state. That includes the missed opportunities, the regrets, even the catastrophic mistakes from their past life.
Accepting the whole picture.
Yes. And this theme, interestingly, draws heavily from some emerging therapeutic techniques. You see things like certain forms of augmented reality or virtual reality therapy gaining traction, especially in the U.S.
Using tech for therapy.
Yeah, where visualizing paths not taken or confronting simulated past traumas in a safe space helps individuals process unresolved grief and make definitive peace with their current reality. It's like an accelerated psychological tool for accepting the life you have, even if that life is an eternity fraught with danger and uncertainty, like in Blackwood.
Fascinating application. But that personal peace, if they find it, is immediately shattered in the very next chapter. Right. Chapter 11, Betrayal's Bite.
Oh yeah, crash. The shattering moment arrives. A secret spills. Marie uses this image of it spilling like black ink across the pure white snow of their friendship. It irrevocably cracks that circle, that trust that she worked so hard to forge in the earlier chapters.
Gut punch time.
Total gut punch. The dialogue around this betrayal is apparently incredibly sharp. Trust just shatters in a heated confrontation. It leaves these emotional scars that ache deeper than any physical injury could in this state. It's the ultimate blow to the reader, who's invested in these bonds, and obviously to the characters themselves. It demonstrates that even in eternity, human failing, or maybe we should call it soul failing, persists.
And this raises a huge ethical question that Marie never seems to shy away from. Even when eternal stakes are involved, our choices define us. So, will the intense pain of this betrayal poison the soul? Will it permanently close them off from trust? Or will confronting it somehow purify the bonds that manage to remain?
That's the core dilemma.
It perfectly mirrors the painful, often very public reality of major U.S. social media fallout stories, doesn't it? Where one leaked DM, one misjudged tweet, one act of digital betrayal can instantly unravel years of established trust, leading to permanent reputational damage, cancellation, social isolation. The consequences feel almost eternal in the digital age.
That's a chillingly accurate parallel. And the tension just keeps ratcheting up into Chapter 12, Forged in Frost. This chapter presents a very literal, physical manifestation of that isolation and betrayal. The cold trial descent.
What does that involve?
Marie paints this stark, desolate, freezing landscape. Survival becomes paramount, and the only source of warmth and safety comes from huddling together from within the group. It demands absolute unity, forcing them to rely on each other despite the recent betrayal.
Wow, talk about forced proximity.
Exactly. And the significance of a sacrificial act becomes the ultimate emotional turning point here. It thaws those frozen hearts. A character has to step up, risk everything for another, maybe even the one who betrayed them or someone they previously rivaled. That act instantly transforms past rivals into dedicated ride-or-die allies through this shared, profound suffering in the cold.
So self-discovery, in this moment, thrives in extreme adversity. It reveals strengths the souls never knew they had or perhaps never claimed before.
Precisely. And this echoes, strangely perhaps, some contemporary U.S. climate anxiety discussions. You hear narratives shifting towards survivalist community building, the reliance on tight human bonds for physical and emotional heat and solace during imagined extreme weather events or societal collapse scenarios. It's that huddled together for warmth instinct.
Like, subscribe, and share for more update. Okay, so after all that tension, betrayal, and freezing hardship, we finally reach the romantic climax of this section in Chapter 13, Hearts Entwined. The immediate threat of the cold trial gives way to this moment of passionate release. Marie lets the built-up passions collide, often described as happening under the starlit academy spires.
It's earned, right? After everything they've been through, the emotional turning point is the kiss that seals a pact. And it's crucial to note, this isn't portrayed as just a moment of lighthearted teenage romance.
No, the stakes are too high.
Exactly. It's framed as a profound vow, blending the lingering fear of the future and the consequences with the immediate, undeniable fire of their connection. It forges something that feels genuinely unbreakable between them. Marie is really arguing here that love can defy the divide of the afterlife itself, creating this essential bridge from their past pains towards potential future freedoms.
Love as the ultimate rebellion against the system.
You could say that. And this culmination, this blend of hard-won self-acceptance and passionate connection, it strongly connects to certain U.S. cultural phenomena. You could think about the year-round expansion of Pride Month discussions, for example, or the rising visibility and importance of allyship movements, especially prominent around 2025.
How so?
Well, it's a powerful narrative celebration of marginalized love, or any love facing extreme structural prejudice, like the rules of the Afterlife Academy overcoming division and finding freedom. It resonates with the idea that chosen family and chosen love are powerful enough forces to challenge even cosmic laws, let alone societal ones. It's a statement that love wins, even against eternal odds.
That's a beautiful connection. Love as the ultimate transformative power. Like, subscribe, and share for more update. 4 Act 4, The Reckoning and Eternal Consequences. Thematic synthesis of chapters 14 to 25.
Right, Act 4. This is it, the ultimate reckoning. This is the moment where all the personal pressures, the internal struggles, and the external threats that Marie has been carefully building finally converge into one defining climactic challenge. It kicks off with Chapter 14, Echoes of the Enemy.
So the external threat ramps up again?
Dramatically. The threat from the demon order escalates. It's no longer just shadows and whispers. It's becoming more direct, forcing these uneasy, high-risk truces even among the generally wary student body at Blackwood. The stakes suddenly feel immediate and potentially fatal for everyone, not just individuals in trials.
But knowing Marie, the most dangerous challenge is probably internal, right?
You guessed it. The protagonist, and likely others, are thrown into what the outline calls the self-doubt gauntlet. They're forced to face a mirrored foe, maybe an illusion, maybe a direct manifestation of their greatest internal critique, their deepest insecurity.
Woof. Confronting your inner critic made real?
Exactly. This immediately uncovers that enemy within, that devastating, crippling voice of self-doubt and internal criticism we all have. The core idea here is intensely psychological. Marie seems to be saying that friendship's armor, the protection the group offers, isn't really woven from external shields or group strength alone.
What is it woven from, then?
It's woven from the hard-won clarity of self-forgiveness. To effectively fight the external enemy, the demon order, you first need absolute, maybe even unforgiving internal clarity about yourself. You have to conquer the enemy within first.
That makes sense. You can't fight effectively if you're at war with yourself.
Precisely. And achieving that clarity is the main goal of Chapter 15, The Third Reckoning. Here, Marie demands a soul-bearing stand against those deep-seated illusions of loss that were maybe introduced earlier.
Like the what if lives from Chapter 10.
Exactly. The major emotional turning point is the realization, the acceptance, that they must definitively let go of a specific ghost from their past life. Not just the memory of it, but the emotional attachment to how they died, perhaps, or the person they were desperately trying to be right before their death.
Letting go of the narrative they had about themselves.
Yes, And this act of psychological release, it unlocks this surprising torrent of hope for their eternal future. And this aligns almost perfectly with the surge we've seen in U.S. mindfulness apps and certain therapeutic approaches.
How so?
Many of them teach specific psychological release techniques, focusing on things like de-identification from the past self. It's about learning to observe past experiences and self-concepts without being completely defined by them, especially in our high-pressure world. It allows people to stop punishing themselves, essentially, for things they ultimately cannot change. It frees them up for the present, or in this case, eternity.
Okay, so after that intense internal work, Marie gives them a bit of a breather.
Seems so. Chapter 16, Alliances Reforged, apparently focuses on rebuilding and strengthening the core group, the circle. It's marked by these quiet victories, mended ties, maybe small promises exchanged, perhaps cemented by a group vow under the Academy's perpetual twilight moon.
Reinforcing the bonds?
Right. It emphasizes that true self-discovery, the kind needed for survival here, isn't a solitary pursuit. It happens through reflection in others' eyes, through shared commitment. And this quiet resilience, this focus on the strength of the small group, it kind of nods heavily to the increased interest in things like post-2025 collective living experiments or co-living spaces in some U.S. metro areas.
Oh, yeah?
There's a trend where community support and interdependence are being intentionally prioritized over traditional individualistic isolation, often as a response to widespread economic or social uncertainty. It's about finding strength in the collective micro-community.
Interesting. But knowing this book, the peace probably doesn't last long. It's not likely. Before the final battle, there seems to be a necessary moment of high emotional risk. In Chapter 17, Flames of Forbidden. Passions flare up again, maybe a link to that earlier romance. Characters risk everything expulsion, eternal consequences for a moment of shared truth, testing the heart's limits by openly defying Academy edicts.
Pushing against the rules one last time.
Exactly. It's a crucial narrative beat because it shows that the emotional work they've done previously, the self-acceptance they've found, has actually made them brave enough to challenge the system itself, not just survive within it. It captures that feeling of vibrant, maybe underground subcultures you could think of, secret parties, or certain digital physical queer events where the risk deliberately taken to express genuine love or identity is the very essence of defiance against an oppressive structure.
Like, subscribe, and share for more update.
Okay, so the personal arcs are peaking, but the external plot needs to resolve too. The narrative tension apparently peaks one last time in Chapter 18, The Infiltrator's Shadow.
All right, the spy plotline returns. Intrigue hits its absolute apex here. A spy is unmasked, maybe someone unexpected, someone trusted, and it twists alliances like vines choking trees in the wind. It threatens to undo all the hard-won trust they've painstakingly rebuilt.
Another betrayal. Or is it more complex?
It seems more complex this time. The sting of betrayal is there, definitely, but it yields to this painful but profound evolution, understanding. The core idea explored seems to be that grief shapes us into who we become, yes, but it's the conscious choice we make after understanding that grief, the choice to forgive, to integrate that pain rather than reactively lash out, that ultimately reshapes the story.
So they come to understand the spy's motivations.
It seems likely. Perhaps the soul understands that the spy's actions stem from their own deep, unresolved grief or fear, mirroring their own earlier struggles. And we see parallels between this kind of complex, trust-shattering betrayal and the current, very widespread anxieties surrounding things like deepfake technology, rampant misinformation, and AI-driven deception in the U.S.
Oh, definitely. The who can you trust paranoia.
Exactly. True crime podcasts, investigative journalism, they frequently dissect this idea that maybe nothing and no one can be fully trusted at face value anymore. The characters in Blackwood face that existential crisis head-on, realizing even their closest allies might be fundamentally non-authentic, or at least fundamentally compromised by their own hidden burdens.
Heavy stuff. So that leads into the final trial, Chapter 19, Trial of Echoes.
This sounds like the final ultimate gauntlet. It forces a direct, unavoidable confrontation with one's death self, that last piece of unresolved trauma or identity tied to their moment of dying or the life they lost.
Confronting the ghost literally.
Seems like it. And the emotional turning point is that this confrontation doesn't destroy them. Instead, it leads to rebirth's dawn. They integrate that final piece. And friendship endures because the circle members, their allies, they see beyond the surface of what was lost. They affirm the soul's current, evolving, integrated identity. This feels like a deep psychological moment. And it links, interestingly, to the modern cultural interest in ancestry and reclaiming lost or complicated family narratives. Think about the boom in DNA testing trends and deep dive family history research.
People wanting to know their whole story.
Exactly. People seek to understand their full history, the forgotten parts, the lost connections, the difficult truths, and the moments of resilience, seeing it as the ultimate path to complete self-definition and healing in the present. Understanding the echoes of the past to solidify the self.
That's a powerful connection, and the group supports this.
Massively. Chapter 20, Hearts Aligned, shows the power of the group surging dramatically. The circle stands firm together, perhaps against the fallout from the trial or the ongoing external threat. It culminates in this crescendo of collective strength, maybe finding shared joy in small, defiant wins against the system or the enemy.
So self-love enables group love.
That's what Marie seems to show. Self-love, once achieved through those trials and reckonings, immediately ripples outward. It allows them to accept others more unconditionally, fostering incredible group cohesion. It kind of mirrors the ethos behind things like U.S. community garden movements or local food co-ops, the tangible idea of growing something positive together, supporting collective wellness and rejecting isolation in favor of shared resources and mutual support.
Okay, but the demon order is still out there, right?
Oh yes, the external threat hasn't vanished. Chapter 21, The Demon's Gambit, brings genuine, catastrophic chaos. The enemy launches a bold external strike directly on the Academy itself. Things get real.
An actual battle.
It sounds like it. And apparently, a desperate sacrificial saved by one or more characters flips the group's potential despair into fierce, unified determination. Marie makes it crystal clear here. Romance and friendship aren't just nice feelings that make limbo more bearable.
The weapons.
They fuel the fight. They transform individual survival, I need to get through this, into a collective, strategic necessity. We need to protect each other and win this. It mirrors, in a way, the kind of global coordination you sometimes see in hacktivist groups battling oppressive regimes or digital demons. The recognition that collective, unified resistance is essential against overwhelming power.
Like, subscribe, and share for more update. Okay, we're nearing the end. Chapter 22, Shattered Veils. Sounds like final truths are coming out.
Absolutely. This is where Marie delivers the final cascading revelations. She strips away all the remaining lies, whether they're secrets held by the Academy itself about its purpose or lingering self-deceptions the characters still cling to. The goal is to bare the souls completely before the final choices must be made.
Does the truth hurt?
It seems Truth's blade cuts incredibly deep here, but the resulting healing, the clarity it brings, is ultimately deeper still. The key insight feels like this: acceptance of flaws. Embracing complete raw authenticity is the ultimate victory, more so than winning any specific trial.
Being true to yourself, finally.
Exactly. And this resonates profoundly with the ongoing body positivity and broader self-acceptance movements, particularly visible in the U.S., that are actively challenging those filtered, perfected realities we see constantly across media, especially social platforms. It's about embracing the authentic, unfiltered soul blemishes, scars, complexities, and all as the only foundation strong enough to truly face eternity or even just tomorrow.
And the circle holds through this. Chapter 23, Bonds Unbroken.
Reaffirms the power of that circle one final time. Maybe literally, a circle of hands define the chaos of the final trial's death throes or the battle's climax. It proves visually that self-discovery wasn't just individual. It was fundamentally a shared unveiling supported by the group.
Resilience.
That resilience and communal strength is powerfully resonant with, say, the documented effectiveness and rise of group therapy models, especially now that they're more accessible through telehealth platforms in the U.S. There's a growing recognition that shared vulnerability, being seen and accepted by peers who understand, often accelerates healing far more than solitary struggle.
Okay, so the conflict resolves, the truths are out. What about the romance?
Chapter 24, Eternal Sparks. Yes. We arrive at the beautiful, defining romantic conclusion for the main couple. The love story culminates apparently in a cosmic vow, something that feels like it echoes through the ages, sealing their bond beyond the Academy, beyond limbo.
So they choose each other.
It seems like surrendering fully to that feeling, overcoming the fear, is the ultimate emotional turning point. Fears fade entirely as two hearts finally achieve harmony, and in doing so, they somehow rewrite their fates, choosing coexistence and partnership over solitary survival. It's deeply optimistic.
And that deep desire, that quest for the perfect connection, the one that makes all the suffering worthwhile, it really captures the cultural grip of relationship-focused apps, doesn't it? Things like soulmate astrology trackers or hyper-specific compatibility algorithms becoming popular around 2025.
Totally. That endless quest for the cosmically perfect, predestined match that will somehow validate everything, make sense of the chaos. Marie taps right into that longing.
Which brings us to the final chapter, 25, Consequences Embraced.
The end of the line for this arc. The fates are sealed, it seems, ushering in a dawn of new eternal possibilities. The victor's defining choice, maybe the protagonist, maybe the group ripples through the entire narrative with this sense of bittersweet grace. It's not necessarily a simple happily ever after.
But there's resolution.
There's resolution,
Yeah.
and the core takeaway from the entire book, crystallized here, feels like this. From the ashes of their past lives, through the trials of limbo to the dawn of eternity, growth is the immortal gift. Marie leaves the reader, I think, with this clear, ultimately optimistic vibe that second chances, even in the afterlife, are real and feel within reach.
Yeah.
If you have done the necessary, often painful, emotional work of self-forgiveness and integration, the consequences are embraced because the self is finally whole enough to face them.
A powerful conclusion. And a good place for our final summary. Like, subscribe, and share for more update. Outro.
So, okay, synthesizing this really epic journey we've taken through Blackwood Academy tonight.
Yeah.
The core themes that define the soul's path are, I think, strikingly powerful, even with the complex supernatural setting. First, vulnerability is repositioned not as weakness, but as the supreme strength needed to connect and survive.
Definitely.
Second, genuine friendship isn't just found, it's forged, often brutally, only in shared fire and shared vulnerability. And third, the acceptance of the complete, complex mosaic of who you are, including the traumatic memories, the failures, the roads not taken, as really highlighted back in Chapter 10's Illusions. That acceptance is absolutely non-negotiable if you want to achieve any kind of eternal peace or progress.
Yeah, I think Ivy Marie successfully shows us through this whole arc that the ultimate fight these souls face isn't really against the Demon Order or the seemingly rigged trials of the Academy.
What is it then?
It's against the parts of their own past, their own psyche, that they refuse to release. It's that lingering guilt, the corrosive self-doubt, the unresolved pain from the life that was cut short. That's what truly traps the soul in limbo. The real enemy is internal, always. And the victory, therefore, has to be self-acceptance.
Beautifully put. And for you, the listener, thinking about how to apply this, using this kind of narrative structure to analyze your own knowledge consumption could actually be a key to more efficient learning.
How do you mean?
Well, look for the patterns in whatever complex information you're trying to understand. Where is the awakening moment, the initial hook? What are the necessary trials or challenges to understanding the core concepts? Where is the potential betrayal, the piece of information that contradicts everything else? And where are the unbroken bonds, the core principles that hold true throughout?
So looking for the narrative arc within the information itself.
Exactly. Where are the emotional or logical turning points in the data you're reading, or the sources you're exploring? Where is the contradiction or conflict that forces you to reassess your understanding? And where is the ultimate resolution or synthesis that allows you to truly integrate that knowledge? Thinking structurally can really help clarify complex topics.
That focus on self-acceptance, particularly letting go of the past, brings us to maybe a final provocative thought, building on that idea that acceptance is the only real key to unlocking eternity's door, or maybe just unlocking your next step.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, if the most difficult lesson for the souls in Blackwood Academy was ultimately self-forgiveness, right? Accepting the life unlived the path they didn't get to finish, then what monumental choice, or perhaps path not taken, are you, our listener, still holding on to today? What decision, maybe professional or personal, are you still subtly punishing yourself for? What past version of yourself are you refusing to let go of that might actually be freezing your current path forward, keeping you in your own kind of limbo?
Wow. That's definitely something to mull over. A powerful question to sit with after digging into a story like this. What are we refusing to forgive in ourselves?
Exactly. Something to think about until our next analysis. Thank you so much for diving into the eternal heart of Ivy Marie's Blackwood Academy with us tonight. It's been fascinating. Keep exploring your sources, keep questioning, and keep seeking those monumental turning points in the information you consume. We'll see you soon.